Also from me, hello everybody. Welcome to this TEDWeek mapping task group meeting, which is during the TEDWeek workshop week. So I guess we are a bit in an other constellation than usual. But yeah, great to see so many people here. Um, Before we start, Ben already mentioned it. So this meeting is recorded and will later be published on YouTube. So Um, the recording will, if there's no screen sharing happening, it will show the person who's talking. So if you don't want to appear on YouTube, just turn your camera off. And if you have any questions, ask them in the chat. And otherwise, well, I don't think I really need to say this, but knowing this group and in general, just be respectful both in chat and when you're talking. This is the first of two sessions about the mappings task group. The other one will be in 10 hours. It's pretty much the same topic, only for the different time zones. So if you want to, feel free to join that one as well. But there's uh, the main part will be the same. It's only the discussion afterwards that could lead to a different direction. Yeah, that being said, now let's go to the actual uh, part. As usual, we have our rolling notes document, and hold on, quickly copy that URL in the chat. Uh, uh, so this is our usual doc, where we keep the notes for our meetings. Um, Feel free to add yourself to the list and also to keep the yeah to help for the minutes as I will be mostly doing the talking, but later also during the discussion can be sometimes a bit hard to uh, yeah keep up with all of the discussion points that were going on. Most of the parts that I'm talking about, I will add to the notes later on. I didn't have the time to do this beforehand, but yeah, for the discussion. Uh, it would be helpful if you all collaboratively edit uh, to the minutes. Um, today, as I said, we have welcome introduction. We already did. I'll give you a brief update on what we've done so far in the last year, since the last public round here during the TEDWeek working sessions. I'm also going to go a bit into the details about the two surveys we did last year. The one is the survey um, for the asking standard maintainers about the mappings they are using within TEDWeek, and the other one is more like an internal survey of the members for this group. We will look at the upcoming work in the next months and then have some time for general discussions. So we will see where this discussion will lead us. A brief history of this group. In the TEDWeek meeting in Sofia, now 3.5 years ago, um, there was an unconference slot. So at the last day, being able to suggest any topics that came up during the discussion of the conference. And one of the topics that at least I noticed coming up over and over again in various discussion was the issue of mappings between standards and that there's no coordinated approach from the TEDx side to handle this. So I suggested this as an unconference session, and so that's the picture at the bottom left. And there were quite a lot of interested participants. So this group, spontaneously formed, and 1 year after, during the TEDx in Hobart in Tasmania, we had a workshop. So first a couple of talks and then some general discussions. This is also where we started working on the charter of this group. And now we are formally a task group under the umbrella of the Technical Architecture Group with the goal of giving recommendations on how to handle mappings of standards in the future within TEDWIC. So for the participation, most of the communication that is done within this group is going via the TEDWIC Slack. We have a dedicated channel within the TEDWIC Slack space. If you're not a member of the TEDWIC Slack, there is I think there's an invitation link somewhere. Oh, I should look this up, where you can first request access to the general TEDWIC Slack space. And then once you're in there, you can just join the channel on the mappings. We also have a GitHub repository where I also post copies of the meeting notes and where you can also keep other documents from this group. There are not so many this far, but there will probably be more. Especially for the upcoming tasks. We do have a charter. It is again links. Thank you, and for posting the invitation link. And here is the link to the charter. But yeah, we don't. You don't need to read this in detail. Just give you the brief summary on what our group is doing or is planned on doing. We have created the work we are doing in 3 parts. The core part is like mapping expression. How do we express mappings in a standardized way, and this being the core recommendation, and then from there to get to this point, we then need to focus on the mapping creation. How do the standard maintainers create those mappings? And on the other side, how are the mappings then documented based on those expressions? And this breaks down into 4 tasks. The first one is to assess the current mappings within TEDWIC, and closely related, just get an overview of general mapping practices. Those were the 2 parts that we are pretty much done with now. In the charter, it says, well, that for both tasks, we want to write a report to the TEC just to document our findings. This has not been done so far, but I think we can bundle this up with some of the future steps. We kind of skipped over the second task of mapping practices within TEDWIC. We have the feeling that we already got a pretty good assessment of the different ways that are out there. And something that has been changed since the initial meeting of this group is that a standard has come along called Triple SOM, also sometimes referred to as CSOM or SSSOM or just SOM, different ways to pronounce it. But this is a standard that's specifically designed to express mappings between standards. It's a relatively simple format. It's just a table, and in core it just says, well, term A from one standard, then there's a property for the mapping saying is it's like the exact match or close match or some variant of that, and then the other mapping. But you can then add additional terms like who did the mappings, when was it done? Was it done automated or by human? Things like that. And this standard has gained some traction in the last years, so that we ultimately decided on kind of skipping the task 2, seeing that Triple SOM is the strong contender at the moment, and more focusing on learning about the possibilities and limitations of that triple SOM standard. At the moment we are kind of on the steps of in the beginning of task 3. So then being able to give a recommendation on how those mappings should be expressed, if that is going to be a triple SOM, and with some additional information on the limitations, we can then roll up the information about the task 1 and 2 into this single report. And from there on, we then should also recommend how can we express those standards on the human readable documentations for the standards. How can we express those mappings for the human readable documentation about the different standards? There was also already a lot of work done with the standards that are already using triple SOM. So namely MIDS and Lattimore Core. They have different ways to do this, but also really sensible in their own right. So I guess we can use this as a basis for such recommendations, so that users of the Tetric standards will be able to easily find and understand those mappings because they are structured in a similar way on the various pages for the Tetric standards. And then the last part is the support for the creators, giving them some documentation on how to use triple SOM, then combined with that also some tools or workflows that might be useful to create mappings based on existing standards. This is not so much that we create those tools and workflow, more like a list of existing or recommended tools and workflows out there that they can use. And then the deliverable 6 is an additional task that we got handed by the tag, that because it's so closely related, that we also should come up with a guideline on whether when a standard has a term that is really related to a term in a different standard, what are the guidelines for saying, okay, we create a new term and create a mapping to that other term, or whether we just borrow that term in its own right and include it as part of the first standard. So yeah, this is kind of the charter, the general outline of the work. Now we can look on what has happened last year. So we actually had 4 meetings since the last Tetric working session. All of the meeting notes are available either in the document you're already in, if you just scroll down, or on the GitHub pages, or GitHub repository in the folder meeting notes. There, each meeting has its own document for the meeting notes, which makes it easier to link to things. And also, since the Google Doc document we don't share as much publicly, as this is just like a completely free to write for everybody. So it's a bit of an access control. Then, as I already mentioned, we had a survey about the mappings for the Tetric standards. We asked the different standard maintainers which mappings are they currently having, how have they been created, and also already knowing this potential for triple SOM, we specifically ask about their knowledge about triple SOM. Have they worked with it? What do you think about this? Are there some limitations from their point of view? Then in one of the other meetings, we had a presentation by Jan Lefranc from the Research Data Alliance and their fair mappings working group. They're working on similar topics, so just exchanging ideas here. And Jan Lefranc is also quite involved in the Triple SOM group, so it's also nice to have a meeting or have a connection there. And then, as I also mentioned, we had a member survey. This is more like internal, just to figure out, okay, how should we structure our meetings in the future, and where are people located, things like this, to make sure that we have a good coverage. Part of the reason being that in the TEDx Slack channel, we were like, I think, 53 people. But for the meetings, we usually only had like 4 to 6 participants, which is, which is, oh, the other way around. Just being part of the Slack channel is not mandatory to take part in the meetings or anything. You can just just be there and just to follow the conversation and see what's going on, and if there are any changes. I just wanted to figure out what was the status there. Is there a way to get more people to join the meetings and things like that? So much for the overview. Now let's take at some of the results for the mappings. So the results for the survey about the mappings. So we had actually 50 participants that showed a lot of different ways to document mappings. There were a lot of different standards present, but as I already mentioned, Triple SOM was mentioned quite a couple of times. It has become quite a common way to express those mappings, and most participants agree that it is a useful way to use and to express the mappings. I'm repeating myself here. Though some had some reservations or limitations about this thing. Okay, there are some cases that we cannot really express with it, and this is really useful for us to know, because it's the real simple structure of Triple SOM in a tabular format also makes it easy to expand with your own columns. And so, for instance, if you want to express some, let's say, conditions or limitations on a specific mapping, then one could just add another column doing this, which of course then would not be part of the Triple SOM standard. Though we could then later on lobby within the Triple SOM community to say, okay, we found here a way to where the standard is lacking. Can you please extend it to that regard? But also, if we have a just consistent way to do this just within TEDWIC, it would also mean a lot of benefits for the interoperability of those standards, and then maybe later on also of the different tools to either create or use those mappings. And then as I mentioned, we also had the member survey. There we also had about a similar number of participants. That survey is still open. You can, even though we already looked at the results in the last meeting, and the main conclusions are drawn, but if you want to take part, you can still do so. We can copy the link here from my slides. Sorry. So if you have not already done so, feel free to participate, and this will round out the picture of this community. But if you, it's fine if you say no, you're just here just to hear what's going on and don't feel as connected to this particular group, yeah, you don't need to, of course. So the main takeaways we looked at the different time zones where are people yeah, located. So we see here a big group in the American time zones. We then have European cluster, and then we have a bit of India and Australia. But this again shows the difficulties on finding a time that works for everybody. So we are a bit unsure on what to take from this in the future. Possibly that we are kind of alternating the times between the ones that are suitable for the Eastern countries and the ones that are suitable for the Western countries. So far, we kind of had more of a focus towards the West, though that means that still sometimes, for some of the people on the West Coast, it was quite early, and sometimes, that doesn't lend to people actually participating. So as for today, as I mentioned, we do have 2 sessions precisely because of this, because we want to capture all of the people interested, and for the future, we will probably find alternating times. We ask people on like how active are they within the group versus how active do they want to be, and most of them say, okay, they are active on various levels, but in general, they want to be a bit more active than they actually are. Some say, okay, I could do a bit less. That's all right. And we also ask for the reasons. I don't have this in here in the slides, but the general parts where there's either I don't have any time to take part in the meetings, or there are scheduling conflicts when the meetings are. So this was the main reasons for not partaking. And then we ask for the meeting frequency, and there we have quite a big spread from going once every 2 weeks to once every 3 to 4 months. And looking at the details, I could also see that the people who are already quite active within the group tend to prefer the more often meetings, whereas those who have rarely participated prefer the less frequent meetings, but that's okay. So even if we have a more frequent, even if we have more frequent meetings, then it's fine if you only take part every 2 or 3 months. And one other part is that I also ask about the preferred form of communication. So is the current Slack channel a good way, or would people prefer to use GitHub, or should we have a dedicated email mailing list? Now, this there is some selection bias in here, because the primary way that I communicated about this form was via the Slack channel. I later on also put it at least on the GitHub repository as well, but I think those respondents are not in here yet. But so many prefer the Slack, though some prefer other means. At the moment, most of the communication is done via Slack, though this is usually also just primarily announcements. And on GitHub, I create, or I try to, sometimes I forget, create new tickets for upcoming meetings. So if you subscribe to the GitHub repository, you will then get an automated email when I create a new ticket saying the next meeting is on this particular day. What are the next steps? As I already mentioned in the part about the charter. Next up are the two parts for the recommendations towards the tag. So one is the a recommendation report to the tag that selects one or more mapping standards that should be the advised way to express mappings within TEDWIG. And the second part would be a recommendation report to the tag on how mappings should be expressed on the TEDWIG website for findability and human readability. So we have the machine readability being the standard and the human readability for the documentation on the websites. So these will be the next parts. But of course, it doesn't mean that we need to work on this sequentially. You also saw the other parts that it's going along with the support for the mapping creators on coming up with the documentation, offset recommendation, or gathering a list of tools and workflows that could express how to do this. So we can still already start working on those other tasks as well. And so this is about the first half hour of today's session. And now I would like to open up the discussion. So I want to hear from you. Do you have any thoughts or questions about triple SOM or about just mappings of standards in general? We have some people here who have not taken part in those meetings so far. Are there any parts that I just briefly mentioned that you would like to know more about? What are your experiences or requirements for mappings? So if you're a standard creator, are there some things where you say, okay, I would like to work on this, but I see here are some problems, or just what else is on your mind? That I'm going to end my screen sharing now. So I will, you now have the different faces. If you want to, say something. Some of you already joined a bit later. I mentioned in the beginning that this meeting is recorded and will be later uploaded to YouTube. So if you don't want to show your faces there, feel free to just type the questions in the chat. Now handing it over to you. Any questions, any comments?
One hand raised, David.
Yeah, Cecile.
Hello. I'm not going to turn on my video, but we have an upcoming mapping exercise in the Davenport maintenance group because we have a memorandum of understanding with the Genetic Sequence Consortium, and they are coming up with a new version of the MIXES standard, version 7. And because the Davenport data package is also moving ahead, we want to do an updated mapping of those two. Well, the standard and I guess the format. I'm wondering if there's any recommendations you already have for how we should proceed with this, because I guess it's some years ago the last mapping was made. And I know there's people from the Genetic Sequence Consortium side who's already worked on SSSOM mapping of Davenport archive to MIXES, the older version. So maybe we could move on from that.
Yeah, good point. So the first version of the mapping was, I'm not sure primarily done, but one of the persons heavily involved was Alisa Meyer, who is also part of the tag. and she has given a presentation about her experiences and the mapping between Darwin Core and Mix. Yeah, I think was 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago within our group here. So yeah, that standard is well suited for for being mapped. No, it is already mapped, but yeah, it's in a quite a good position because it is already using triple SOM.
Okay.
And of course, like, updating it now will require some work. I'm not quite sure how the Darwin Core data package will then affect those mappings.
I think it matters a bit for, at least we need to look at that, since we now will have a material table, for example.
Yeah.
There will be some things that are moved around in Darwin Core data package compared to the in the Darwin Core archive. But as I saw on some of the examples that were shared in the chat, it's perfectly doable to include both in the mappings. It's relative. I haven't done an SSSOM mapping myself yet, but I look very much. It seems like a good way of doing the mappings, at least. So
yeah. So to be honest, it's been a while since I looked at the particular mapping of Mix Darwin Core. So I'm not quite sure to which extent they utilize the additional fields that are part of the standard. But yeah, I think Matthias Dillon just posted the mappings in the chat. Yeah, that looks correct. 4 years ago, yeah, and that's it. So yeah. Anyway, so of course it would be useful to then also look at the standards that have done the mapping since, because also again, triple SOM is still in quite active development. I'm not sure which new columns they have added since, and which how things within the standard have changed. Yeah, but it might be worth looking at particularly Latimer Core and MIDS to see if they're using any parts that have not been used with MIDS so far. But it's certainly also quite an interesting exercise just to gain more experience here in our community with triple SOM. Is this done in the Darwin Core session this week, or is this just another upcoming date?
sorry, was this a question for me?
Yeah,
David?
exactly.
Yeah.
So is the hold on, is the the Darwin Core meeting group is, or at least the one for East is next week on Monday. I see in my calendar.
Yes.
So will this be happening there, or will there be a dedicated meeting for it? You know that?
Oh no, there will be a dedicated meeting.
Oh, okay,
So as far as I know, version 7 isn't officially released. The mix is version 7, and we need to get the Darwin Core, the maintenance group sessions, I think, will focus on the Darwin Core data package, so updates around that specifically.
I think I will try to join that meeting, even though I don't have much experience with Mix, but yeah, I might be able to help a bit there in some regard, and if not, just to again get some experience on like how is the mapping process, especially like with if it's a group effort, and I guess it would then also be quite useful just to gather those experience story. In particular, if you have a group of volunteers working on this and working in parallel, just to I don't know, just imagine as part of the resources for the standard creators, having kind of like blueprints or success stories or whatever you want to call this. And here is how we did this. And if somebody then says, "Oh yeah, we need a mapping from student A to B, and how do we best approach this?" And then they can look up those resources and say, "Okay, well, that sounds like a good approach. I know to have a mapping party or something like that."
Okay, thank you. I think the mapping exercise was supposed to happen around summer, but we need to have the ratification in place before we can proceed.
Yeah, that's good to know. And we will, as a task, we'll keep an eye on that, and and then maybe also afterwards ask for experiences. Any other questions or comments?
Hello, David. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, this is Miwa. I joined your mapping meeting on the other day. Then we talk about this eDNA part that I'm involved with. Thanks for that overall view of this task group activities. It might be really beginner's dumb question, but was say like communities use this SSOM format to map to standards. I guess like the next step that we would be interested in is to actually map the terms. So like, are there any existing tools or scripts that does that job once like SSOM tabular templates are filled in? Or is it something that you are thinking to develop, or maybe it's not on your agenda and maybe we should be just working on that separately? Could you give me some your view that you have around it?
That's a good question. Maybe I will head this over either. Oh no, Elspeth already left, but Matthias is still here. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot there. But Matthias was quite involved in the mappings of MIDS. And so I also did for MIDS the part of our MIDS to ABCD. But then the MIDS team created Google Doc files with a predefined structure that I could then just like fill with the appropriate paths. And so it's a Google Doc template. And afterwards, I think it was just this file that was exported to TSV or CSV. Matthias, can you confirm this?
Yeah, so it's just CSV files and YAML files that make up the actual data for the mappings that are being made. And as for how to easily work with them, well, we made them initially indeed in Google Sheets and finally exported them as CSVs, but that required quite a lot of manual editing and fixing, because when converting CSVs between different programs, lots of stuff gets converted that you don't want to happen with an actual standard file. So double quotes get added and extra lines get added and that sort of thing. So we don't really have an ideal solution for how to very easily format these files. not yet. So that could be something useful for the task group to work on, like what is the best way, what is the ideal program to build these spreadsheets and manage them without any issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Miva, you?
No, that's good. Yeah, thank you for the information. It's good to know that it's, you've been trying and then there are some attempts but it's not up and running yet. So yeah, that's what I needed to know. And I think it'll be good once lots of communities start using triple SOM, they're all gonna be on the same format. So if there's like one tool that could work universally, yeah, that would be useful to wider communities, I think.
There are actually two ways to serialize triple SOM. We could also put the metadata and the actual mappings in a single file, but then it's not a proper DSV file. So that's why we didn't opt for that solution, and we have two files instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
And yeah, so this certainly would be something where the mappings task group could help, and or at least just the other way, somebody else has started working on this and trying to use this solution so that it's reusable. I don't know. I just imagine having a Python script where you just enter a Google Docs or Google Sheet URL, and it will then export this and take care of all of the required processing and data validation and things like that. And in the end, you get out those two files. Yeah, so it can be universally reused for other standards. I think for the formatting or for the actual work being done, the Google spreadsheet approach is quite easy and universal. It's like tabular data editing is something that's most people are familiar with, and doing this on a collaborative platform certainly has its advantages on multiple people working on the same approach. So I think it's quite a good first step to say we use this as a central tool for data entry, and then have other processing steps follow up. Jutta.
Oh, sorry, I have a cold. Actually, I mean the spreadsheets work fine so far, but actually what it would be really good to have is mappings depend very much on the definitions. And kind of like you need to make sure that, okay, this is the term that its definition and it actually works with the definition of the other term. So it would be really nice to have like the mapping table, and then depending on like you clicking on the subject or object, a window going up or showing up on the side, giving you all the metadata to that standard term. That would be actually really neat for users.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. So yes, of course, if having a dedicated software that really encompasses those will certainly be more useful than just plain spreadsheet.
Okay, maybe I'm a heretic, but I also think it would improve interaction with TEDx standards and in general if we had a much more human-friendly UI UX where you can like see all the terms and easily like, yeah, move between the different standards, get your metadata, and then mapping is kind of like a natural mapping out to other standards or mapping between TADWIG standards. So kind of thinking the direction, what is it, BioPortal? These kind of like platforms that combined with a mapping approach kind of and collaborative so that people could discuss mappings and improve and so on.
Yeah. Then there's so if we then have more like a community approach and then also being able to like comment on certain things and saying, okay, here I think I know this is mapped as same as, but I think it should be like a broader property or something like that. Yeah, then would also require some commenting or discussion platform.
Yes, I mean, that would be really neat if we could have like, I mean, it could be just a link out to GitHub issues or something like that. I mean, but it would be really good because mappings might depend on the context where you do them. It might be right in one context, but in a different context, it might be questionable or not work at all. Yeah. So, and actually, SSS also provides kind of like an outline of such a platform, which I really like. So they have kind of like, you can have different sets of mappings, and so they have like have a registry level or repository level, and then different sets. And so we would have kind of like something to work with.
So yeah, we certainly will need to also take a better look around on what is already out there. There's no need for us to reinvent things that other communities have already done. So while it's good to have some experience with SSOM within our community already, we are certainly not the only one.
Anybody else questions or comments or have more info? David,
Sorry,
anything else?
Sorry.
Sorry.
I can't find the hands up symbol, so it's okay to just start talking.
Just start talking. Yeah.
All right, so I've been working on TCS and it's just been ratified at the end of last year. And I've got the SSOM mappings for them. I've maintained them as part of the standard, but we just didn't make them part of the review yet, because otherwise the review would be about that. But now I actually would like to throw them in the group at some point. So do I just publish them, in a GitHub repo, and put a message on Slack that is there.
That would be a good first step. Yeah, we at the moment we don't have any recommendations or something on what the best way to handle this is, but the other standards have done it similarly.
I just like some extra people to look at me because to look at not at me at at the mapping because I've done it myself. I don't think there's a lot of interest in in the maintenance group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll do that.
Did you use SSSOM, Niels?
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
When I sent it to you for review first, and then you said, "Oh, you should use SOM." So I did.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's actually part of the standard, I use a YAML file to manage the standard because I find it easy to work with than CSV, and it's actually in there. I just didn't put it in the, I didn't put it out with the rest of the standard. It's just a Python script that does that. I went when Latimer Core was there already, and I looked at that, and they had it as part of the standards documentation, so I followed that.
Yeah. So if you just post this in the Slack channel, I'm sure other people will take a look at it, and yeah, I can either give you recommendations or then the other way around. Maybe will then use this to actually get a bit more familiar with the SSSOM.
Well, I can point out a thing that I wasn't quite sure about.
Yeah, sure.
What to do, and then we can discuss that.
Yeah, so as I said previously, those are the parts we're like really interested in. Like, where doesn't SSSOM fulfill the needs for a specific standard? Or where it is just a bit unclear in terms of how to be used.
Yeah, and I can tell you what we need to do. And then you can tell me how to do it.
Great.
Anybody else? Good. David, I think you can wrap up.
Yeah, okay, sure then. Yeah, I mean, we have 5 minutes to the quickly screen again for the last part. So yeah, again, thank you all for being here today. Thank you particularly for Ben for being up so early to help us with the technical part. As I mentioned, the video recording will become available in the next, I wrote days here, but more realistically weeks until it's released on the TEDx Slack channel with the working sessions week just starting. I think we were the first session at all, right?
This is the first.
Yeah, and so there will be a lot of videos to process later on. But yeah, it will be kind of available. Subscribe to TEDweek on YouTube, and you will be informed of new releases. And in the meantime, we have the GitHub repository where we have the minutes. I will probably, hopefully next week, I will be able to put all of the notes from today into a dedicated markdown file for the minutes and post it there as well. And then again, we have the Slack channel. Ben posted the link for the registration. And I saw that, yeah, Cecile, you had the question about joining. So the link that Ben posted, it's to join just the general TEDx Slack space. And once you're in there, you then need to add the channel mapping between standards as channel you subscribe to. Alternatively, you can also just email me and ask for it. I can send invites, which then need to be approved by somebody from the executive or some of the administrators of the Slack channel, which usually is a matter of a couple of minutes or hours.
David,
and then
I can see I can just, hashtag right to the channel. So I'm gonna try that and see if that adds the channel for me. But for some reason I can only create channels.
It's a bit the feature is a bit hidden. Maybe I can quickly show this. Hold on. So this is a channel. As you see, I have it in my favorite. But it's if you want to see a channel that you're not part of, I think it's and I also have it in German, of course, here now. But there is, whenever I'm looking for something, let's add channels. Oh yeah, it's channels, and then you it's administer, but I'm not an administrator. Anyway, somewhere here in the next to channels, you have the 3 icons, and you can go to search channels, and then you see all of the channels. Or you go here to go to what's in the English UI. You have the directories or lists or something like that. And then you have the channels and can search the various channels.
Yes, that works. Thank you.
Yeah, it's whenever I'm looking for a channel that I'm not part of, it's always a bit tricky to find it. And then this add a channel here, meaning I create a new channel and not just add a channel to your list. It's a bit confusing for the user interface. Yeah. So the invite link is more for the people who are not already part of the TEDx Slack. But I can also send invites, and when I send an invite to an external person, I can check the box that once they join, they come automatically member of the mapping channel. Then that wraps it up, and we are quite on time. 3 seconds to spare. Thank you all, and have a nice day. And maybe I see some of you later on today in the second round.
Yeah, we have many more to go. If you just check out the website, there's a whole list of working sessions, and so we appreciate your time. Thank you, David, for doing this morning.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, I saved the chat, and then
cool.
Also made a screenshot of the participants, so we know who was there.
Awesome.
Right.
Will you send that to me?
Yeah, sure. I've Elspeth and then one other person left, but that's in the chat as well.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Cool. All right, man. Thank you, David.